TV yìí mo fẹ́ máa wò, ọ̀rọ̀ tó jẹ tí ń gbèsè mo fẹ́ gbọ́, ètò lóríṣiríṣi wọ́n wà lọ́lọ́kan òjọ̀kan, ìròyìn tó kojú òṣùwọ̀n àtàwọn ọ̀rọ̀ àgbọ́ fi kọ́gbọ́n, eré wọlé fún tẹ̀rù tọmọ tèwe tàgbà ẹ má fi para. HBL TV mo fẹ́ máa wò, ọ̀rọ̀ tó jẹ tí ń gbèsè mo fẹ́ gbọ́, ètò lóríṣiríṣi wọ́n wà lọ́lọ́kan òjọ̀kan, ìròyìn tó kojú òṣùwọ̀n àtàwọn ọ̀rọ̀ àgbọ́ fi kọ́gbọ́n, eré wọlé fún tẹ̀rù tọmọ tèwe tàgbà ẹ má fi para. Àjànàkú kọjá mo rí nǹkan fèrè, bàbá rere káwí parí. BGI TV, we are the pace setter. Bàbá gbàgede ìmọ̀ tẹlifíṣọ̀n station tí dòde.
Mo kí lọ́kùnrin lóbìnrin lọ́mọdé lágbà nínú ilé yìí, mo kí wa pé a kú déédé àsìkò yìí, pàápàá jùlọ àwa tá a wà ní ìlú òyìnbó. Láìpẹ́ yìí ni mo rí ẹni tó pè mí wọlé láti ìlú òyìnbó wípé àwọn immigration ní Nigeria Embassy tí wọ́n issue passport fún àwọn máa ń sọ ní problem lórí passport tó pọ̀. Ìwọ̀n àmì wọ́n á fi yàjà wọn àwọn aṣọ online ọjọ́ méjì àwọn máa lò ní embassy. Obìnrin yìí ṣe voice note, kò pẹ́ làwọn èèyàn bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní pè mí wọlé sí pé òdodo ni kò sí rọ́ńbẹ́ o, kíní kan o. Bẹ́ẹ̀ náà làwọn ọmọ Nàìjíríà náà pè mí pé ìyà tí wọ́n fi jà wọ́n ní immigration office ó pọ̀. Nígbà táwọn bá apply for international passport, oṣù mẹ́ta oṣù mẹ́rin kò tí ì jáde, àwọn ò tí ì rí gbà. A bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní fi ọ̀rọ̀ yìí léde. Ṣàdédé la rí pẹ̀lú ìyàlẹ́nu tí Minister for Internal Affairs, mínísítà tuntun tí wọ́n ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ yàn sí ètò ìgbòkègbodò inú ilé abẹ́lé ní Nàìjíríà tá ń pè ní Ministry of Internal Affairs, tí wọ́n wà ní ìcháàjì passport àwọn ní immigration wà directly ní under ministry ni wọ́n wà. Ní mínísítà yìí bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní sọ pé ní agbára Ọlọ́run ìṣòro oníkálùkù wípé ó ti dópin o, àti ilé o àtoko méjèèjì kò sí tó ń jọmọ́ pé ẹ̀ ń kíù, kò sí tó ń jọmọ́ pé ìyà ń jẹ yín, kò sí tó ń jọmọ́ wípé wàhálà ń dé báwọn èèyàn nípa ní lọ sí ẹ́mbásì. Eléyìí tó fi hàn wá pé ìjọba tó wà ńbẹ̀ ti gbọ́ pé wà ó lè má rí bá a ṣe wí, ṣùgbọ́n mo fẹ́ jẹ́ ká jọ wo fídíò yìí ká lè fi mọ̀ pé ìbéèrè wa ìjọba ti gbọ́, wọ́n sì ń ṣiṣẹ́ lé. Kódà tó yani lẹ́nu ni pé kí mínísítà yẹn tó dé, kíjọba yẹn tó débẹ̀, oríṣiríṣi ni wọ́n ń dánwò ní immigration, bíi kí wọ́n gba owó lọ́wọ́ yín, kí wọ́n ní ẹ̀ ṣe fast track. Tẹ́ ẹ̀ bá ṣe fast track bíi ×2 iye tí wọ́n ṣe normal passport lẹ máa san. Bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti sanwó yẹn bẹ́ẹ̀ ìjọ́ kejì ó pẹ́ jù wọ́n á fún yín ní passport yín. Ṣùgbọ́n ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ̀ bá ti sanwó fast track tó jẹ́ normal owó lẹ san oṣù mẹ́rin gbà mí ẹlòmíì ò tí ì rí gbà. Àmọ́ gbà tí mínísítà yìí débẹ̀ kí á pa gbogbo passport bíi 200 and kìíní kan thousand táwọn èèyàn apply fún, kí alárakùnrin ti sọ pé láàrin ọ̀sẹ̀ mẹ́ta gbogbo ẹ̀ gbọ́dọ̀ jáde, gbogbo ẹ̀ sì jáde náà lóòótọ́. Ó tún wá fi àwọn ohun kan lẹ̀ wípé gbogbo àwọn tí wọ́n rìpọ́ọ̀tù wípé àwọn ò rí international passport gbà, wọ́n fẹ́ rí inú wọn rí gbà, wọ́n tó wà nílé àti lẹ́yìn odi, gbogbo wọn làwọn ṣiṣẹ́ lé lórí. Mo fẹ́ kí gbogbo àjọ tẹ́tí bẹ̀lẹ̀ jẹ́ kájọ fìdílé nǹkan tàbí ká wà nǹkan fìdílé, kẹ́ ẹ gbọ́ gbogbo ìlérí tí mínísítà yìí tó ṣe. Kò ní dáa kó ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ kí n má sọ sí tàbí kí n má jẹ́ kẹ́ rí wò. Channels TV ni wọ́n interview mínísítà yìí, àwọn tó sọ rèé o nígbà tí wọ́n ṣe interview fún. Ẹ jẹ́ á lọ gbọ́.
All right, then. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us tonight. The Minister of Interior, Honorable Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, is our guest. You remember, a few weeks ago on this program, he made a promise. Let me remind you of what he said.
Instruction that I've given to the Immigration Service. I do not see anything in the short term. I don't think clearing out backlogs, it shouldn't take more than 2 weeks. by the grace of God, we give them all the assurance of His Excellency the President that we will unbottle all bottlenecks. That's number one. And number two, we will unbottle these bottlenecks without jeopardizing or sacrificing national security. You can be rest assured of that. We're coming up with our work plan, and we're going to come up with KPIs, key performance indicators, and we're going to have our timelines, and we're going to carry the civil society and, of course, the media along. We want Nigerians to be able to judge us. Nigerians should be able to mark our scorecard. We should be able to give us a scorecard after every quarter. This is what we aim to achieve under the leadership of the president.
All right, then, Honorable Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, the Honorable Minister for Interior, is live with us on the program. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
So you made that promise. You said it should not take you more than 2 weeks. That was a promise you made right there on that same chair. Have you done that?
Well, good evening, Nigerians. Let me, first of all, thank God Almighty for the opportunity and the privilege of life. We made a promise, and that was going to take us 2 weeks. But let me start by apologizing to Nigerians that it took 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks. We had a backlog of about 204,332. That's the number of people that had enrolled without their passports being printed. But 3 weeks after, that was on the 7th of September, we made a promise, the 6th or 7th of September. But by the 1st of October, we had cleared all the 204,332. As I speak to you, there is no backlog that has not been printed. What we are on now is advocacy for collection, for people to go and pick up their passports. And of course, yesterday, I gave a marching order to the Immigration Service to send messages, even follow up with calls to Nigerians, and also do press releases to tell Nigerians to go to the passport offices and collect their passports. So far as of today, the number of backlog already cleared, as I said, is 204,332. The number of passports that have been collected is 94,981. The ones that have not yet been collected, but they are ready for collection at various passport offices, is about 109,351. So that's the number. So as we speak to you, every Nigerian, any Nigerian should be able to go to the passport offices where they enrolled and pick up their passport.
Congratulations, I must say, because perhaps for the first time in a long time in Nigeria, we have public officers who say we will do this, and they have done it. And I must say congratulations to you, albeit you apologize that it took 3 weeks rather than the 2 weeks, which a lot of people thought that it can never happen. It could have, maybe it was going to be difficult for you to make that happen. But now, give us an understanding of what you are doing, because there are those who have complained also that the collection is also very tedious. And they have to use touts, those who are on the outside of the passport collection centers to get their passport collected, paying extra and more money than they naturally should pay in getting their passports.
Okay, thank you, Sheon. Let me say this very clearly. I have to appreciate the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who has given us all the support needed to solve this problem. He has actually given us all the support, and he's been on our neck to say, hey, I appointed you to bring results, not to bring excuses. So a lot of this achievement would have been impossible without the support that we got from him. I want to respond to what you've said. It's a systemic issue. On this issue of passport, I addressed the press conference earlier today, and I said it very clearly. Nigerians should please do not give money to anybody. Initially, they had issues with the activation of the passport, process, which, of course, touts and people try to take advantage of that. But as of today, I can tell you that that's fully sorted. today. So there's no need to give money to any town.
So if you walk into the passport office,
yes,
give and take, in 30 minutes, you should be able to go in and out and collect your passport.
No, you should get your passport after sorting. Of course, there are so many passports. For instance, Ikeja had Alausa had 37,000, over 37,900 passports.
Printed already.
Printed already.
Uncollected.
No, that was the backlog.
From the 204,000.
Exactly.
So out of the, from the 204,000.
Yes,
yeah.
They had 37, Kenya had 37,900 plus. Today, 9,000 plus being collected. So we still have about 28,000 that has not been collected. Imagine 20,000 people going to the passport office at the same time. You know, it might be a bit chaotic and stuff like that. And that is why part of the reforms, that leads me to part of the reforms we're bringing into passport administration. For me personally, and I have to say this to the service providers, I said it today, I said it yesterday, and I've always told them, you need to make life easy for people. We cannot as a government, we cannot as a service make things more difficult than they ought to be. And part of the reforms that we're putting in place now, starting from December, is that even when you want to enroll for your passport, you fill your forms online, you do your payment online and everything. You do not need to go to passport office to have your picture captured. No. People apply for American visa. People apply for UK visa. People apply all over the world. And your passports with required specification as directed by NIS will be uploaded on the platform. So you upload your passports online, you upload your supporting documents online. So when you go to immigration office, you spend just like 5 minutes just to have your biometric caption. That's all. So the era of people sacrificing a whole day just because they want to go to a passport office for enrollment is over. It is unacceptable. As I said, you cannot inconvenience people based on their rights. It is the right of people to have a seamless experience. Is it the right of people to have a sweet experience? Is it the right of people to have a renewed hope experience, an experience that is laden with renewed hope, such that you go there, you capture just your fingerprint, your biometric, and it is done. What that does for us is that today, an average passport office captures just like 400 people a day. Because by the time immigration will look at, the officials will look at your document, you bring the hard copy, they will still take your passport picture and all. But if we automate all this process and all we do is just the biometric, which of course we need to do, because as much as we must not also sacrifice competence on the altar of speed, we must not sacrifice the integrity of the process. We need to be sure that the person that is coming for the passport is who he says he is by virtue of biometric features. So we will continue to get that, enroll them biometric in terms of the biometric features. But once that is done, you just go there, you take your biometric feature, you go. So hold on, Shehu. After that, to me, I see no reason why people should go back to immigration office to go and be queuing to collect their passport. There should be what we call a value-added service. It's a value-added service. It's there when you go to, when you apply for visas. It is there even in Europe. It's there in America. Nobody goes to immigration office in America. Nobody goes to immigration office in the UK. So once you apply, and you pay, you should be able to have the option. So do you want home delivery or delivery to your office?
That's the point I was going to ask you, Honorable Minister. NIPOST is almost is almost non-existent in the minds of many Nigerians. And even the United States, as large and as bigger as that country is, they make use of the postal services. Yeah. And I'm wondering the place of these in delivering this sort of service to Nigerians. I mean, if this kind of, for example, even in the banks in the United States, they will put your ATM cards in the mail for you and it get delivered to you and you will get it. So are you thinking of this kind of service?
That's exactly.
To the point that it will not be so expensive to Nigeria, because you can't say that you will not pay, you will pay for the postal service because it comes to your doorstep. But then, in what way and what modality is that going to take?
Number one, let me tell you this. I've thought through this with my team, and we have said, I keep saying this, the essence of us being in government is to provide what we call a sweet experience, the renewed hope experience. That I know, I'm passionate about this because I know how passionate the President, His Excellency, is about it. And what we want to do is the only time you go to immigration office is when you go and capture your biometrics. We should not take you more than 5-10 minutes because you should be on appointment. And there should be a queue management system in place at those passport offices. These are not things that we will not do. When we promised that this government we will get the 204,000 passports off, backlog off in 2 weeks, people thought, oh, it's not going to be possible. But they've forgotten. This is a Bola Ahmed Tinubu government, a government that is focused on performance. So for this, I can assure you the price, because we are working through it, and we're trying to do all the processes between now and December, so that by January there is a new workflow. There's a new process flow.
What would it look like? What would that flow look like from beginning to the end?
Okay,
will it look like the American visa application process, where you sit down in your home, apply online, upload everything that is necessary, and at the end of the day, you get whatever you need to get posted into your mail? Is that how it's likely to be?
Well, I will not say it will be like the American system, because every country is peculiar. Challenges are peculiar, and terrains are peculiar, and there's so many peculiarities.
The UK use that kind of system for their visa process.
We have to design a method that works for us as a people, a system that will automatically be able to solve our problems, while not jeopardizing national security or our collective interests as a people. So I will put you through the workflow. The workflow is you apply online, you do your payment, you do everything online, your passport picture, you upload it online based on the specification. I repeat that, based on specification, because we have to be sure of the clarity in order to avoid identity theft and what other issues. So there are specifications. So you upload this, your supporting document, you upload your attestation, which you take to the court, sign, and whatever that the information you are supplying, update, that they're real, they're genuine, you upload online, then you'll be able to pick a date to go to the passport office just for the purpose of biometrics. Once you're done with biometrics, then you will have the option. Maybe you want to do a personal pickup, or you want to do home
mail drop,
either in the office or home or whatever. What that does another advantage of that is that it gives me a trail, what we call audit trail. It tells me that, oh, this is your address, that's where you actually live. If I'm unable to, if I'm mailing to you and I cannot get your address, of course we'll return it back. Then when you come and pick, we'll now tell us why that address is not. So it also brings a bit of integrity into the address verification system, that the NIS has. So with this, it means that the only time you have an encounter with an NIS staff, with an immigration staff, might not be more than 5-10 minutes. So the era of people carrying children, living from one place to the other, booking hotels, and doing all these things just for the purpose of enrollment, I guarantee you, under the Bola Ahmed Tinubu presidency, that era is over. Also, what we are also trying to do, because of our diaspora population, and also in some areas, we're also looking at having what we call more passport front offices. Because for me, I do not see, yes, that has to be in partnership with some private sector. Because funny enough, these things I'm talking about were things that had been conceived as far back as 2006. In the contract agreements, 2006, 2008 contract agreement, we saw some of these things, but most of these things were not activated. But coming on board, the first thing I did was to study all the existing contracts and be able to hold service providers responsible for what they're supposed to do. If you have a contract to provide A, and you're not providing A to the satisfaction of Nigerians, then of course you have failed in performance. And when you fail in performance, we also reserve the right of termination of contract. Nobody, and I repeat, nobody, will hold this country down, because the interest of Nigeria is more important than individual interest or any business interest of any individual. So what we are guaranteeing Nigerians, sweet experience. We're giving them a renewed hope experience, and what I love to call the Bola Ahmed Tinubu experience in the area of immigration service.
Let me ask you, so we look at it, because we're still talking about immigration service, so there are a lot of people who are asking about the diasporans and how maybe you need to look at the clusters. How many Nigerians are in the Americas? How many Nigerians are in Europe and the UK? And how you can be able, because a lot of them, if you go to Atlanta, for example, that center is usually a crazy heaven when you go for passport application. I mean, sometimes when you go to New York or DC, also in Maryland area, when you want to apply for passport, is usually hectic. In the UK, same thing in London. It's always very hectic. There was a time there was a protest at the embassy with all of these issues. What specific hope should Nigerians who are living out of this country have, especially for those of them who are now having their passport, their expired passport right now? Do they have any hope that there will be ease of collection of or issuance or application?
Well, let me say this, and I'm sorry to keep mentioning the renewed hope, but I'm not also sorry because this is what we're giving to Nigerians. The renewed hope is not about vague promises. The renewed hope is about practical promises with practical steps, empirical, verifiable, not just based on hypothesis. I will tell you what we're doing. What we're doing and what we will do. We're not here to tell you tales that do not exist. For the diaspora, the US is still better. But think about Canada. Canada is arguably the biggest country on earth in terms of landmass. Canada has only one passport office. What that tells you is that from an extreme end of Canada, you have to fly with your entire family if you have children, young children, whatever, just because you need a Nigerian passport. That is unacceptable. The problem we have outside Nigeria is not just a problem of backlog, maybe with exception to UK, London, that has about 3,000. The main problem we have is, one, appointments. Three, because there are no appointment times, because there is a bit of congestion. So what happens is law of demand and supply. You see people now bribing, paying to have space and whatever. How do we solve that? It's by creating more passport offices, taking these offices closer to the people. So what we are looking at, for example, in Canada, for a start, we should have about 3-4 offices. These are not, yes, the government might be a bit, okay, we might not at this particular point in time be able to say, okay, we want to spend money to open all these things. But we can partner with the private sector, which incidentally, it's part of, incidentally, that service, the passport front office, is actually in the contract signed by NIS with some service providers over a time ago. But up till now, not yet activated. And I have told them by January 1, God bless you, if you do not activate these services. If you do not activate it, it means you lack the capacity to implement your contract. And you will not hold millions of Nigerians in diaspora to ransom by not being able to provide them a service you ought to provide.
Right, Minister, we're due for a break, but when we return, since we're talking about immigration service, this is just one of the agencies under your purview, and I'm wondering just how difficult are we to, don't create a new thing, just copy what you see elsewhere. We travel across the world, and when you come to Nigeria, what you have is not a story that is palatable at all when it comes to security clearance and a host of others. I'll be asking you about immigration service as we see it in Dubai, as we see it in the US, as we see it in the UK. Why do we return to Nigeria? The case is sometimes barbaric. The Honorable Minister of Interior is still with us. I'll be right back on the program with some of these conversations that pertain to you as the Nigerian people. We'll be right back, everyone. And aviation
agencies, like customs, aviation. So there's a lot.
EA official passport that look at it and give you back. And I'm wondering, for what purpose? Why does it look ridiculous that our system is like that? Why are we not able to do what now looks like a standard practice in some parts of the world?
Well, Shem, I want to assure you, we're working, there's interagency and interministerial collaborations going on. I mean, there's a lot of that is going on. The Interior, NDLA is under Justice, Ministry of Justice. We have trade and investment people, and couple of other
And aviation
agencies, like customs, aviation. So there's a lot. Customs is under finance. NDLA is under justice. Of course, aviation is there. And so there's a lot of collaboration going on. And I want to assure you, we are not in the game of making promises. I hate to make promises that we cannot keep, we will come up with a holistic plan, a work plan to revamp the whole process and make it seamless. Part of what we're trying to do at the level of immigration is to introduce what we call the e-gate pass, like a smart gate, like what you see in Dubai. You see, once you're a Nigerian and you're coming to Nigeria, there's no point standing on the queue, going through all this pain. We want to, at our international airports, we should be able to have the Nigerian passport, scan your passport, it enters into the system, you go because you're a Nigerian, so that should be a privilege. You can't go to Heathrow as a Nigerian and be on the queue forever and come to Nigeria, your own country, and be on the queue forever. When you see an EU citizen go to any of these EU countries, they are specific, you just go. When you see Dubai people, they have smart gates. And part of what we're also trying to do is to be able to introduce an ICAO certified ID, which has ID card. Ghana has it already. I think Dubai has it, and some other countries, they already have it. So in place of your international passport, in case of your ID card, your national ID card should serve more than the purpose of just identification. It should also be your travel document.
Right. So before I go there, Minister, so I imagine that, because I'm trying to come back to say, I wonder what Nigerian leaders, when they travel, what they see. And I'm wondering whether I'm perhaps too paranoid when I go out of the country and I see things. And I'm wondering, why are these things why are we not able to replicate some of these things? They are basics. And if you look at what happened in the United States in the 9/11, the Homeland Department, Homeland Security Department, was created in that country as a brainchild of what America faced, a terrorist attack on their soil, and made them to rejig their security and ingress into their country and how people come into their country. And in fact, if you're going from one American state to another by the airport, there are ways by which they check you. And I'm wondering, why is it difficult for us to do this kind of situation and this kind of system? And you see it quickly. Germany took it up. France took it up. Dubai even expanded on it and made it so sophisticated. You, in fact, may not be able to see anything. You just go through it, and only one person, perhaps, one immigration official, is what you will see. Immigration has the burden to be able to admit people into this country, isn't it? Yeah. Why are they not solely taking that responsibility?
No, they are. I mean, they are. They're not sharing their responsibility with anybody. Minister,
I can mention 5 other agencies that we see at the borders when you get into the international airport.
That you see them at the borders does not mean they are responsible for admittance.
But they check you, and you get confused on their duty, exactly.
As much as I'm not the spokesman of these agencies, but when you talk about admittance into the country, that sole right belongs to immigration. Border control is the explicit right of Nigerian Immigration Service. It's immigration service, and they are not sharing that with anybody. We have to give kudos to some of our hardworking officials. You see, a lot of these things you're talking about, just don't forget, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration is just how many months old. We do not expect magic. A lot is being done. For instance, we inherited these backlogs that we've cleared. I just told you about the smart gate now that we're trying to put that will give comfort to Nigerians. And also, one other thing I haven't said that was actually in the contract of some of these service providers that they ought to have done is what we call the Advanced Passenger Information System, APIS. You've spoken about security. You've used the U.S., the homeland, as an example. There is no country today that it's what it's up that do not, in terms of migration, that do not have what we call the APIS. We do not have that yet in Nigeria. But I want to tell you that by February, by the grace of God, APIS will be running in Nigeria. What that does for me, because immediately I came in, I was like, okay, how do you know that somebody who comes to Nigeria is who he says he is? That's number one. Then number two, How do you take decision on somebody coming within 5 seconds or 10 seconds that he spends in front of you in the counter? You should. What other countries have done is immediately you buy your ticket, immediately you're coming, the whole list, the immigration service, we have access to it, that this person is coming. So there can be pre-profiling. We can look at it and be able to assess threats, assess people, do further investigation. So that when you that's what happens in Dubai. When you get to Dubai and you see some people arrive, or in Heathrow, and they just say, oh yeah, please, can you come to this side or something? It's not magic. It's not that. It's not rocket science. It's because they have the information that you are coming. So they've done, okay, these are the people that are coming. We'll do our due diligence. So we can be sure that whoever comes to Nigeria should actually be in Nigeria. Exactly who they are. And they actually have a reason to be here. So this was something that had been, funny enough, when I was going through the contracts in the ministry, when I came on board, it's been there for border control management. It's been there for more than 10 years, but never activated. But immediately we called the contractor, this service provider, and I said, listen, don't tell me you have a contract. No, your contract, to the extent that it does not abuse the interest of Nigeria, is valid. But if it affects negatively the interest of Nigeria and Nigerians, it's null and void, because national interest supersedes individual interest. And I told the contractor, and I told him, this particular solution, when is it coming on board? And at the end of the day, with immigration, I met them with immigration service, with the ministry, with joint services, everybody. He said, okay, if this does not come up by the third time of February, giving me a safer border and enhancing the capacity of our officers, Nigerian Immigration Service, helping their decision-making process and securing this country from external danger and securing my border and ensuring the safety of Nigerians, this contract will be terminated in public interest.
So Nigerians, you're hearing the minister, you're listening to him, hold your cameras. We need to see a change service from February. That's what we are hearing. And that is what we are hoping.
We have already started seeing a change service. I'll give you an example. I flew into the airport on Sunday from Italy. I carried my bag. I went to visa on arrival. I didn't tell them I was there. And I saw the way the officers treated some foreigners. And immediately, I summoned them for a meeting on Tuesday with the CG Immigration Service in my office. And those officers, as I speak, they are having their punishment. You cannot disrespect Nigerians or foreigners just because you're wearing uniform. That era is gone. And we have said we're introducing what we call mystery shoppers. We go to our immigration offices, our borders, our airports, and these people will have only one responsibility: to detect bad eggs within the service. And anybody that is so detected will be treated as in an appropriate manner.
They're hoping that this will change things, and so this is it, Minister. A lot of people will never meet any government officials in Nigeria, and the first set of people they meet, apart from sometimes when the AC may not be working at the airport and the heat hits you when you get out of the aircraft, and the immigration officials, the NDLEA, the customs, and all other agencies that you meet there, and they are those who are carrying the image of Nigerians on their faces and in their uniform, and it's important. And I'm hoping that will work. Let's go to data aggregation and data integration. Now, you've mentioned NIN and a few other means of identification in this country. The international passport is also one of them. But the NIMC, the Nigerian Identity Management Commission, that is in charge of issuing the national identity card, from the information that we have, said we understand that they've captured about 100 million Nigerians out of the over 200 million. But we do know that about 30 million only Nigerians have their national ID. this is far-fetched from, this is supposed to be the part of every Nigerian, what a Nigerian should have, just compared to the social security that an American or any other European will have that identifies them easily. What are you doing differently? Are there immediate plans to integrate all of these identities that Nigerians carry?
Yeah, thank you. For me, data harmonization is key. You can't ensure economic prosperity or financial inclusiveness if you do not harmonize your data. And without proper data management, you cannot progress. You can't make the sort of change that you want to make. So NIMSI, of course, is an agency under the Ministry of Interior. I want to tell you that we've met with the management of NIMSI. We have a work plan already sanctioned. And the first thing we want to do is harmonize all data. For me, it's not acceptable. Nigeria is arguably maybe the only country that I know of where you have a BVN, a BVN for the bank. You have VIN, voter identification number for INEC. You have the telcos, they have their own database. You have, of course, road safety capturing their own. You have NIMSI capturing their own. There's too much multiplicity, you know, and duplication of proliferation. I don't want to use the word duplication. I want to use the word maybe proliferation, you know, of data capture. I think what we need to do is to harmonize all this data and make sure that we have a single repository, and NIMSI performs its sole responsibility. The responsibility of NIMSI by law. NIMSI is the only body by law, you know, that is permitted or that is granted that privilege. I use the word privilege, you know, to harmonize, to be in charge of identity database in the nation. NIMSI should be able to do that. So I want to assure you that we're working very closely on that. And I don't want to give you timelines now because, as I said, I don't like making promises that we can't keep. But in due course, very soon, probably in the next couple of weeks, we'll come back to Nigerians and be able to give definite timelines.
So that takes me to critical issues. So there are cases where sometimes there are attacks, and they will say those who attack are speaking alien languages that people in those communities don't even know. And they will say they are not Nigerians. So there are infiltration into our land of people, of their identities are difficult. And those who say we could use some remotely controlled aerial devices to detect facial identities of these persons. And those who will say, even the Nigerian people are not even so captured as much as you'll be able to identify whether those who are attacking are Nigerians or not. How do you then identify even the identities of Nigerians? So the question is, you had an agreement with the humanitarian ministry when they came to you and they were talking about how they are able to discharge their responsibility to Nigerians in delivering those succor in the post-subsidy removal era. So the question is, if 30 million people have, or only 30 million have collected their national ID and 100 million are the people that have been captured by NIMSI, what are the plans to capture more Nigerians? Does NIMSI have the capacity to do that?
Well, the technical capacity is not in doubt.
NIMSI has the capacity
100%,
to capture?
100%. We have the capacity, and we already have a work plan, which we have already submitted to the, we've already submitted it to the SGF and the special advisor on, that's Hadiza Bala Usman, in terms of the number of people annually that we want to be adding to the database.
How much is that?
How many is that? NIMSI has the capacity to be able to do that. And also, the era you keep talking about printed IDs, you know, the world is actually going on digital IDs. You can't take that away, you know. So the issue of physical ID, yes, is still an option, you know, but it should be, for me, my own opinion. I'm not saying that, I'm not talking, now let me talk as Bumi Tunjiojo, not as Minister of Interior. Now, I'm not speaking for government on this. I'm speaking my own personal opinion. Is that the issue of ID, of a national ID, to me, in terms of the hard copy, the physical ID, it's something that is a bit to be optional. It's not something that's mandatory. But all these 103 million people, can embrace what we call a digital ID, because the world is actually, and that's what I think we need to focus on. As much as we need to, and of course, our national ID, in my own opinion, as I said earlier, should go beyond just a means of identification. Our national ID, we've seen it in Ghana, just our neighbors here, Ghana. We've seen it in UAE, United Arab Emirates. We've seen it in a couple of countries where the national ID is also a travel document. It's ICAO certified. So we have to think out of the box and not just issue IDs just for the sake of identification. If it's just for identification, there are so many means of identification, but we must look at multiple. Our cards can be means of payment. I know NIMSI have tried something like that, which I think we can build upon. It has to be a means of travel, as I have said earlier, with all our smart gates and with what other countries are already doing. So sometimes if you are coming in, you don't even need your passport with your ID. You should be able to do that. So we're looking at features and that we can integrate into the solution and produce, if we want to produce a physical ID, let it be a physical ID that Nigerians will be able to get value, for. It's not just a matter of who are you, I'm this, or this is my ID. It's not about that. The world has gone beyond that. Sheon, this is 2023. This is not 2003. And we have to be able to compare. We have to be able to benchmark whatever service we are delivering to Nigerians as against what is delivered by similar agencies or ministries outside of Nigeria. We should be talking about international best standard, and I think that is what the Renewed Hope is about. Renewed Hope is not about doing the same thing the same way. Renewed Hope is about doing things, in a more enhanced way that will be able to give Nigeria a bit of succor and excitement.
Let me take you to the prisons, as very popularly, the correctional services. It said about over 70% of inmates are awaiting trial. The last time you were on this program, you said you were going to be speaking with other sister ministries to ensure that there will be proper administration of the space and the criminal justice system. What have you done so far?
What we've done, like, as I said, I'm a man that I deal with figures, I deal with data. You understand? I plan. And what we've done is that we've looked at our whole, the role, and we discovered that over 4,000 of these people, of the inmates, are in due to their inability to pay fines, so we have been able to separate that, and we are already working with some ESOs, some agencies, some companies as a matter of CSR to be able to see how we sort that out. So we're already working on that, at least be able to get these 4,000 people out of correctional service. And
what percentage are these 4,000 in the entire number of inmates?
Well, 4,000 out of 80,000, we have about 70-something thousand. So if my mathematics...
In federal prisons?
No, prisons across.
So in all of the prisons in Nigeria?
Yes, we have about 4,000. And I want to also tell you, and most of our inmates, about more than 80% of them are state offenders, not federal offenders. So that means we have to collaborate with the state governments, to be able to, because it's prisons, correctional service is on the concurrent list. It's not an exclusive, it's not on the exclusive list. So we are already, there's a committee that we've set up to be able to look into this, and I can assure you that we'll come up with verifiable steps and an action plan in due course. But at least once we get this out, again, lest I forget, I spoke the last time about non-custodial services. Yes, I spoke about that because the difference between, one of the major difference that we have between the prison service and the correctional service is the introduction of non-custodial centers. So this is something we're already working on. We have done our homework as a ministry, and we will take it up to the appropriate level. Government is their processes, we will take it up such that, because from our own anticipation and from our own estimation, if we are able to introduce the non-custodial services, we should be able to further decongest our prisons, our correctional centers rather, by 43%. So that brings the number of inmates that we will have to about 42,000. That brings it down. a bit more, and it helps us to solve the problem of congestion and overcrowding of our correctional centers.
We still do not know what has happened in the Kuje attack. Do we know?
Well, these are national security issues with gross implications on our collective security. So these are not issues I'll be able to discuss on camera. But I tell you, government is on top of it, and government will have it under control. But,
how much of the repairs of the infrastructure or the rebuilding of the infrastructure, you see some of the prisons, they look like they've been built
some of the last correctional centers.
Some of the correctional centers.
Yes. Yes, we're putting a lot into that in terms of our plans, but I will not sit here and tell you vulnerabilities, you know.
No. So we just want to know, because if you see them, you know that these are vulnerable structures.
Don't worry.
And that's why some of these attacks could happen in minutes.
The only thing I can assure you and assure Nigerians is that we're putting in everything to make sure that these correctional centers are actually corrective in nature and are not condemnation centers. Personally, I'm passionate about this. And I can tell you that the president is very passionate about this. The inmates, a lot of them are very vulnerable. And we need these places to be a place of hope, where people can rebuild hope, where people can rebuild life, and where people can come out as better people, better individuals. We are committed to that. And also, we're also committed to the reintegration plan, even post correctional service life, giving them succor and giving them hope and giving them skills and what they need to survive. So, but in terms of the architecture, in terms of the security, in terms of vulnerabilities, I'm so sorry to disappoint you. It's not what I can talk about here.
All right. I have two quick questions and we have 2 minutes. I don't know how you want to do it, but the first one being the NSCDC. Their major mandate is to protect national assets.
Critical
oil theft is being on the rise. Is the NSCDC still relevant, considering their mandate and what is happening?
They are more relevant now than ever.
But are they doing what they're supposed to be doing?
The NSCDC is doing a great job. But you have to understand, when you look at the NSCDC Act, you will understand the enormous, the humongous responsibility that they have. Critical national assets, protection of our oil assets, our mining sites, even churches, even schools, even public offices, and a lot. There's a lot that they are doing, and we are trying to increase the number of people, increase the number of hands, and also enhance their training, while also giving them equipment, that's needed. But I can tell you there are some reforms that we're also putting in place.
You think they could be merged with the Nigerian police?
No, I don't think so.
Since we are under police?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. The responsibilities are different.
There are those who believe that it could be a department under the Nigerian police.
They are the Coastal Guard they are the National Guard of Nigeria. In America, you do
the equivalent of the National Guard.
That's exactly, yes. They have their own key responsibility. And it will be a disservice to those men. If I come here and undervalue the effort that they're doing.
But we just want to get the assurance that they are doing what the Constitution or the law says they should.
They're doing a lot, and they're bringing a table to the security architecture of Nigeria.
The final question, just in about 30 or 40 seconds, is the porous borders of Nigeria. The Immigration Service is under your purview. What are you doing differently to digitally, perhaps, monitor the very millions of kilometers of Nigerian borders?
Well, we don't have millions of kilometers of border. We're not as big as that.
We're not as big as which country is in Canada, in Africa.
But Nigerian border is just over 4,000 kilometers, and land border is about 4,000 kilometers. And of course, we border 4 countries. We border Cameroon down south. We border Niger. We border Chad. And of course, we border Benin Republic. So we are doing a lot in terms of border control management. That's what I spoke about earlier today. And we're looking at so many illegal routes, and there's a lot of technological enhancement. Also, let me say this, though we don't have time. We're putting in a lot of effort into our border communities. And that is why today the Border Community Development Agency is now under the Ministry of Interior. We have a lot of work to do in developing our border communities, because some of our border communities are not just border communities, they are contagious communities. contagious communities in essence that in so many cases they are half Nigerian, half the other part. So there's a lot of work for us to do to enhance patriotism on that side. Technology alone cannot solve the problem of our borders. We need the support of Nigerians. We need the support of those border communities, and we need to get their support. We need to enhance cooperation.
The former CDS says about 137 of our borders are unguarded.
That's what I'm saying. It goes even beyond the unguarded borders. The most important thing is the support of these inhabitants, of Nigerians in this border community. But for them to be able to give us that level of support, we must also show more effort in terms of development of those communities.
Minister for Interior, Honorable Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, thank you so much indeed. You made some statement tonight. Nigerians will be holding you accountable. I'm looking forward to the performance. But thank you so much.
Just like President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president, we do not make promises we can't keep.
Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you.
That's our show for tonight. I'll see you tomorrow again.
BGI TV yìí mo fẹ́ máa wò, ọ̀rọ̀ tó jẹ ti ń gbèsè mo fẹ́ gbọ́, ètò lóríṣiríṣi wọ́n wà lọ́lọ́kan òjọ̀kan, ìròyìn tó kojú òṣùwọ̀n àtàwọn ọ̀rọ̀ àgbọ́ fi kọ́gbọ́n, eré wọlé fún tẹ̀rù tọmọ tèwe tàgbà ẹ má fi para. BGI TV mo fẹ́ máa wò, ọ̀rọ̀ tó jẹ ti ń gbèsè mo fẹ́ gbọ́, ètò lóríṣiríṣi wọ́n wà lọ́lọ́kan òjọ̀kan, ìròyìn tó kojú òṣùwọ̀n àtàwọn ọ̀rọ̀ àgbọ́ fi kọ́gbọ́n, eré wọlé fún tẹ̀rù tọmọ tèwe tàgbà ẹ má fi para. Àjànàkú kọjá mórí nǹkan fèrè, bàbá rere káwí parí. BGI TV, we are the pace setter. Bàbá gbàgede ìmọ̀ tẹlifíṣọ̀n station tí dó.